Hey everybody, welcome back to the Island Fox. Today we have a very special video for you guys. With it being March here in the United States, that means it's the NCAA March Madness basketball tournament.
For those of you that don't know what that means, like me, it's a bunch of different college teams that play basketball until the best one wins, and everyone fills out brackets to decide who they think is going to win. So you start with 64 teams, and then it just goes down until you have like the final four, and then you choose the winner. And no one has ever won, correct?
Correct. You have a 1 in 9.2 quintillion chance of predicting a perfect bracket. But every year, everyone fills out a bunch of brackets. We filled out 5 ourselves. And that got us thinking.
What if we try this with Formula One drivers and try to put it down until the best, greatest of all time, the GOAT. Who is the GOAT of Formula One? The history, not just now.
Yeah, so obviously there's a huge challenge in that, right? Mm-hmm. And the rules we came up with were titles mean more than wins. Mm-hmm. So the top seeds had the most titles and then went down. Mm-hmm. If you had a tie on titles, for example, the 1 and 2 seed, to no surprise to anyone watching this, are Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason Schumacher is the 2 seed is because his winning percentage is less than Lewis Hamilton's. Fun fact about that, if he didn't join Mercedes, he would have had a higher winning percentage. So...
You mean Schumi, right?
Yeah, if Schumi, sorry. If Schumi didn't end up joining Mercedes afterwards, his winning percentage would have been higher than Lewis's, which would have given him the number 1 overall seed, which you'll see as we do this bracket, would have been huge for him. But yeah, so titles come first, and then if you're tied on titles, then it comes down to winning percentage to determine your ranking. Mm-hmm. Now, I can already see in the comments below everyone complaining, oh, some of the greatest didn't win any titles. And there's 34 guys that have won titles. If you didn't win one, you're probably not going to be better than some of the higher up guys anyway. So we're not going to worry too much about those guys. This is only for the world champions.
And this is also our opinion. I think a few of these guys, I'm like, yeah, they may have won more, but it's difficult because you look at history and the cars are completely different than what they are now.
Totally different.
I personally think the cars do a lot of the work for them nowadays. So I think the drivers back in the day had a lot more muscle effort into it, like Senna holding his gear shift for the entire race. That wouldn't happen now. They would just retire the car. Yeah. So I think it's a few of these are very difficult because I'm like, this person has more wins, but this driver almost died for this race. So, So it was, a few of these were very tough and like I needed a few days to think about them. So somewhere on this screen, we'll try to put, as we go along, the brackets.
So you guys can kind of visualize what we're doing. We have her phone right here to help us visualize while we talk to you guys. But yeah, again, to reiterate what she said, this is our opinion alone. I guarantee you will disagree with us. This is still the internet. But this is what we feel in a March Madness bracket would be the GOAT of Formula One.
Let's get to it.
Okay, so obviously with there being 34 world champions and only 32 people in a bracket, because 34 just makes it look weird, we have to have a play-in match, basically, to see who actually makes the field of 32. So what we did there was we took the bottom 4 seeds and made them play each other to even get into the bracket. Yeah, to get into the bracket. So the first one going against each other is Jenson Button versus John Surtees.
I'm going with Button.
There's a lot of things here, right? We're going to go through a lot of names. We're going to go through some of the more easier ones pretty quick. Not saying John Surtees wasn't a good driver.
Yeah.
But Button took a team that shouldn't have done anything and won a title. Mm-hmm. Whether that was the car or whatever, I just think when you come down to it, Button was the better driver.
I agree. That's why I chose him.
All right, moving on from there, Kimi Räikkönen with Keke Rosburg. I know some of you might be surprised that Kimi is not even in the original bracket, like he's that far down. His one title, and then he was in forever, so his win percentage was super low. Yeah. But it's him versus Keke Rosburg, who has 1 win in his title winning season. So who'd you pick?
I chose Räikkönen.
Yeah, me too. So
yeah, I just think he's like so naturally talented, even with 1 win. I just find him like just fun to watch.
Yeah, I will not be convinced if he didn't try harder. But I mean, he did it his way. He's happy.
Yeah.
But if he would have had Lewis Hamilton's drive, he would have had more than one. So
Yeah.
I think he beats Keke.
Yep. All right. So those two guys are now in the bracket.
In the bracket. So
right.
then we'll display this hopefully somewhere if I can figure it out, and then we'll just go from the 1 seed and then just work our way down from there. So the 1 seed now, Lewis Hamilton against Jenson Button.
Gonna go with Lewis.
Gonna go with Lewis. I don't think we need a lot of discussion there. Button was good. Lewis is great. Right?
And so Lewis moves on.
Lewis moves on. That'll be a slide later. So now we're going to the next round, Emerson Fittipaldi versus Graham Hill. This one was a little bit more challenging.
I feel like this was one of the ones that we talked about the most.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Hill.
We both picked Hill. I think my thing for it was Emerson has higher winning percentage and all those kind of things, but Graham Hill is the only driver to win the Triple Crown of motorsport, which is Le Mans, Indy, and a World Championship. So, to me,
That's pretty cool.
that's pretty cool. So he moves on. Moving on from 16 and 17, Graham Hill and Emerson Fittipaldi, we're going to go to 8 and what is that? 25, Niki Lauda versus Mario Andretti.
So I'm going to have to go with Lauda. He's just, I don't know, his name is like a household legend.
Right, even if you don't follow
Yeah, I
F1.
feel like you know him. And I mean, he has 3 titles, but also the fact that he got in that terrible accident and then a month later was like, yeah, no, I'm going to go back. That's just so OG.
Yep.
So cool. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with him.
I would agree. Lauda's one of the OGs. Then he
Yep.
created Mercedes afterwards. Yeah, Lauda's through to the next round. Moving on from there, we have 9 Nelson Piquet with Jochen Rindt.
PK.
Piquet. It's hard because Rindt was the only driver to ever win the championship posthumously. So what would he have done if he continued racing? How dominant do you have to be to pass away in a race and still have enough points to win the title? But I mean, PK is PK.
Yeah,
So cool.
I concur.
Prost, number 4 Prost versus Mike Hawthorn.
So Prost, he has 4 titles, so I'm going with him. He was just dominant, and he also had to compete against Senna and then Schumi too, right?
Yeah.
So like he
Yeah,
did pretty good for himself. So
he
I'm
held
gonna
his
go.
own.
I think Prost can move on.
Yeah, and I would agree. Hawthorne's good. Prost is better. We try not to focus only on like the higher seed with the more titles, but if you have more titles, you're usually better.
Yeah.
I know there's
also
caveats.
this first round is kind of tough because like you're putting Lewis against
Jenson.
Yeah, so I think as this goes on, it's gonna be like, oh,
Yeah, the challenge it'll be a little bit closer together. Moving on from there, we have number 13 Max Verstappen versus number 20 Giuseppe Farina.
Max.
This was the first one that we got was really hard because it's new age versus original. Like Giuseppe was the first champion ever,
Yeah,
so it's like those are a completely different sport.
yeah.
But Max is dominant and isn't
And
done.
he's aggressive. He's not done. Like I don't see him stopping anytime soon.
No.
So, and he's just in a league of his own right now. So
Yeah, if we did this next year, if he has 3,
Yeah.
right, that's totally changed. Yeah, so
yeah. So I'm going with Max.
yeah, going with Max. Next one up, number 5, Sebastian Vettel versus 28 Jacques Villeneuve.
So Vettel. He's
Vettel was dominant, as dominant as any driver's ever been when he was on Red Bull. And I know his winning percentage got hurt a little bit when he went to Ferrari and then Aston. But
story of everyone's life.
right, once you go to Ferrari, you just ruin your career. Sorry, Leclerc. But
Yeah.
he was the original villain.
And
when he
he's
was
just
at
like
Red
a beautiful driver to watch. And like he just makes it, he just takes the sport and brings it to a next level. So he's just, I love him so much.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed.
Bull. It's not a fangirl pick. It's just
I know. I was trying to be like, let's look into both of them. But you know,
Vettel was the whole time. There was no.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from that one, we have Jim Clark versus Nico Rosburg. We disagreed on this one for a while.
I know. I went with Jim Clark.
We ended up going with Jim Clark. but I thought Nico held his own pretty well.
Yeah, because I initially was like, oh, Nico. But Jim Clark, I think, just had such talent.
And again, it's the era thing again, right? So it's, he was driving a completely different car. He had to help develop the car. You know, he won. Yeah. Jim Clark makes it through against Nico. So now number 2, Michael Schumacher versus 31 Kimi Räikkönen. This is a heck of a draw for Schumi.
I know.
Like, you're supposed to be a 2 seed. You're supposed to have a real easy slide. Your first one's against Kimi, who was, in his prime, was probably one of the best drivers. But
yeah. I'm going to still just go Schumi, though.
It's got to be Schumi.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm going with Schumi.
Yep.
We'll get to more on him as this goes on. All right. Number 15, Mika Häkkinen versus number 18, Damon Hill. This was another one we struggled a lot on.
Yeah. I feel like I did a lot of research with this.
Right.
I'm going with Mika Häkkinen.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the big reason I was originally, and it was like, you know, Damon Hill went up against Schumi and beat him. But Mika went up against Schumi and beat him twice. So it's like, you know, I don't know. Mika was...
That does say something.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mika Häkkinen moves on for us here. All right. Next one. Number 7, Ayrton Senna versus 20... What is that?
Jody Scheckter.
28, Jody Scheckter.
Senna.
All right. Moving on. 10, Jack Brabham versus 23, Alan Jones.
Brabham.
And I'm going to throw myself under the bus a little bit here. I've heard of Brabham. I had never heard of Alan Jones. I could have guessed 33 of these guys.
Yeah.
And I never would have guessed Alan Jones.
Yeah,
so no slight to him. He has more world championships than I do. But when you go against Brabham, I'm going to pick Brabham. All right. Number 3, Juan Manuel Fangio. Sorry about that. And then number 30, Phil Hill.
Fangio.
As much as I wanted to pick Phil Hill because he won for Ferrari and he was the first American to win.
Fangio.
It's Fangio, man. Built the whole sport.
Yeah.
5 titles in, what was it, like 6 years or something? Like, the dude
I mean, he is one of the reasons Formula One is here. So, yeah.
Yeah. Fangio. Sorry, Phil. All right. 14, Fernando Alonso versus number 19, Nigel Mansell. This is another one we discussed.
This was another one. I think ultimately I went with Alonso.
Yep.
He attacks. He, I think, has more world titles.
Yep.
And I just think he's a little bit more of an aggressive driver.
Yeah. And Alonso's another one of those ones that's like plagued by the long career.
Yeah.
Like, it's a positive because he's so dominant. Like, I mean, we just did a video where he got a podium at 41. But he would be a much higher up this list if he didn't have 300 races behind him, and his winning percentage was very low.
Because that's another thing. Like, a few years ago, we didn't have 23 races per season. You know, so if you only have 5 races, then and you're dominant, it's like, okay, cool. But when you've been in for this long and there's so many races, that does affect your win percentage. So you have to look at that.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, they were doing 23 races. Some of these guys don't even have 23 races in their career.
Yeah.
They're doing 1 in a season. So, got to factor that in. But we both picked Alonso. Moving on from that, we have number 6, Jackie Stewart versus number 27, Daniel Hulme. Stewart.
Yeah.
Okay. Stewart. And then last one for this video, because we're trying to match this up with the actual tournament. So this is the round of 32. This is everybody's brackets getting filled out. Last one is Alberto Ascari versus James Hunt.
Ascari.
I think you had a little more trouble than that.
I don't know why. I think I just like Hunt's background. It was just, I don't know. He brought like a playfulness. We'll
go with playful. That's a word we'll use.
To Formula One. So I was like, But I do think the season that he did win, Lauda wasn't in
most of it.
So it's like
Hunt was a good driver. And I'm not saying he didn't deserve his title.
Yeah.
But
Ascari
is, again, one of those OGs with Fangio.
Yeah.
Right? Those who were going together the whole time. I think you just gotta... I think Ascari gets the nod here.
Yeah. So this one, I feel like this first round was a little bit easier because it's like, 1 versus 16. You're like,
Right.
okay. But I was looking at it ahead and I was like, I don't know. A few of these I'm going to just toss a coin and hope for the best.
Right. The further you get down this bracket, which is how it works in the actual tournament too. Like you get a couple upsets and you're like, oh, this Cinderella team, and then they play like a real team and they get smoked.
Yeah.
Right. So as this moves on, I think you're going to see a lot of these where you're like, the comments will start lighting up of like, how could you choose this person over this person and this person, and then people are going to throw out random stats.
Yeah. Because it is all opinion based,
Right.
but like you can use statistics, but you also have to look at like the driver themselves. Like what will they do to win? Some of these guys would probably kill someone. I don't know, but
yeah,
I could see it. So I think you just like we're trying to look at the whole picture and not put my biases in and be like Vettel. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So that was the round of 32. Join us for our next video for the Sweet 16. Thank you